About 1 in 10 people you'll ever meet is left-handed. That number has barely changed in 30,000 years. Why has it never moved? Why isn't it 5% or 30% or an even 50-50? To answer that, picture two people fighting thousands of years ago. No weapons, no rules, just fists and instinct. If you're right-handed, you've spent your whole life fighting other right-handed people. Every block, every reflex, every move you know is built for that. Now your opponent is left-handed. Every attack comes from the wrong side. Your body doesn't know how to react. That moment of confusion is often enough to lose the fight. That means being left-handed was an advantage, a real one. It made you harder to predict and harder to beat. You can still see that advantage today. Watch boxing. Watch fencing. Left-handed athletes win at a much higher rate than their numbers should allow. Not because being left-handed makes you a better fighter. Because almost nobody trains to face a lefty. You become the one opponent nobody's ready for. So here's the important question. If being left-handed gives you an advantage, why hasn't it spread to half the population? The answer is simple once you see it. The advantage only works because left-handed people are rare. Think about it this way. Right now, almost everyone trains to fight right-handed opponents, because almost everyone they'll ever face is right-handed. That's what makes facing a lefty so confusing. But if half the world were left-handed, that would change. People would train against left-handed fighters just as often as right-handed ones. The surprise would disappear. The advantage would disappear with it. So the number can only grow so far before it cancels itself out. It settles at a point where being left-handed is rare enough to still surprise people, but common enough that it never fully disappears. That balance point turns out to be about 1 in 10. Not by design, just by the math of the trade-off repeating itself, generation after generation. That explains the fighting side of the story. But there's a second piece, and it has nothing to do with fighting at all. Scientists studying the brain have found that left-handed people often have their left and right hemispheres connected a little differently than right-handed people, especially in areas tied to language and creativity. Not damaged, not backwards, just built along a slightly different path. That different wiring might explain why left-handed people show up so often among musicians, artists, and even several US presidents. Nobody is completely sure if that's because of the brain wiring itself, or because growing up different forces the brain to adapt in ways it otherwise wouldn't. But the pattern keeps repeating. For most of history, nobody knew any of this. People just assumed left-handedness was wrong. Kids were forced to write with their right hand well into the 20th century, sometimes with their left hand tied behind their back to force the switch. But if left-handedness were truly a disadvantage, evolution should have erased it by now. It hasn't. Look at the world you live in today. Scissors, spiral notebooks, car ignitions, school desks. Almost everything was built for right hands. Every left-handed person alive has had to adjust to a world that was never designed for them. And even after thousands of years of that, the number has never dropped. Left-handedness is exactly as common today as it was in the Stone Age. So the next time you meet someone who's left-handed, you're not looking at random chance. You're looking at a trait that's been holding its ground for tens of thousands of years, for reasons that only recently started making sense.